Dad? You know I need to go. You know I want to go. I need to learn this. You've heard the stories? There's such amazing things out there. I need to see them. I need to know what it's like. We've done weaving all this time and I feel the magic. I feel it. But I need to know there's more. Because I know there's more. Remember that one traveler like a few years ago? He spoke of the academy. It sounded like such a wonderful place. You know I need to go. I deserve to go. It's my place to be. I'm going, Dad. Very well, Lurian. But do come back. Don't be a stranger for too long. And be careful. We know you know what you're doing, but be careful. It's a dangerous world out there. Please. Won't you take our advice? I don't think it's a good idea to just take a fishing boat and go across the Death Moon Pass. You should try to go to Torloch and get a ship. At least that. Please listen to me. So, first question is, what does Lurian do? Does she listen to the advice of her father and go to Torloch to get a ship? Or is she going to take a fishing boat and try to go across the Death Moon Pass? Because that's what she wants to do. Principals, do the others agree? Are we going for the fishing boat? Alright. Fishing boat it is. Lurian kinda looks her dad up and down. Dad? You say the world is dangerous out there. You say that all the time. We've been fishing here forever. We know the Death Moon Pass up and down. Like, it's really not that bad. She says that even though she knows fully well that there's rapids down the entire length of it. Also, Dad, the world is dangerous. Here, at least, it's nature. I know what to do with nature. Like, we've heard stories about Torloch. I don't want to go to Torloch. Why would I go to Torloch? It's a bad place. I don't want to be there. No. Dad, I'm taking the boat. And he sighs and like puts his head in his hands because he knows that no matter what he says, she's probably going to do exactly the opposite of that. Because that's always what she's done. Like, she's fulfilled her duties and everything, but whenever it came to actually doing something that she wanted to do, she'd do whatever she wanted to do, specifically if it went against everything that everybody else told her to do. He sighs. Be careful, please. Today's supposed to be a good day. There's no storms coming. And it's a full moon, you should be able to see. Please be careful. Well then, let's go round everybody up. Make sure you get a proper farewell. And as said, do come back. Don't just leave and never return. We'll miss you. Please? Of course, Dad. Of course I'll be back. I don't know how long I'm gonna be at the academy. Like, most people only stay for a few years and then they come back. You know, they've learned their stuff. And her dad kind of looks through this, like, side eye and raises an eyebrow and is like, Lurian, with the amount of things that you want to know, can you possibly expect that you're going to go to an academy for only a few years? And Lurian just kind of looks away and tries to avoid looking in his eyes. She kind of just looks off in other directions. He sighs again. Alright, Lurian, let's go get everybody else. And so, with that, the village is rounded up again. They do a shorter version of what sounds like, at least to your ears, a similar song to the one that when you had originally arrived. Joyous, extremely happy, extremely fun and dancing and shifting, but undertoned beneath all of that, there's this little bit of a sadness of someone leaving. And there's hugs all around, and there's kisses here and there, and there's farewells, and there's a few tears, and there's a lot of laughter. And as the sun begins setting, Lurian gets her stuff. Okay, the time has come. Sun's setting. In about an hour, the tides pull out. Should be able to make the passing then. Wish me luck, she says with this giant smile as everyone around her is just like, just be careful! And she goes down the side, the one that you had seen on the other side of the village, this pathway going down to another beach, and as she goes down there's several fishing boats. One of them is already prepared, it has a few pieces and just stalks and such in it. And a few people kind of walk down half the way past her, although she's bounded forward. She ran down the entire direction. She's full of energy. Bye, Mom! Bye, Dad! She says, waving as she sprints down, pushes the boat out onto the water, and as it's beginning to go along, she runs a bit, and then she does a hop, hop, triple jump onto the boat, lands on it, it wobbles a bit, drops her pack, unfurls the small sail, and fills with air. Begins riding out into the twilight, and then, as it sets, the darkness. And so far it seems to be correct. The waters are low at this point, the tide's fallen out, Death Moon Pass pulled huge amounts of water out, and right now the passing is the shortest between their end and the end of the mainland. On the other side, they'd been there a few times. It's one of their passages to get onto the mainland and to do trading, because not too many... It's difficult to get onto this separate isle, because one of the only ways is to go through Torloch, and a lot of traders don't like to do that. And so, smaller cargoes and such will try to get over ships through the Death Moon Pass whenever it's good. And today seems like a good day as well. Or a good night, as the case may be. Going across. And then the wind begins to pick up and starts drifting her downward. And she furls in the sail again, because she doesn't want to drift. She starts rowing, but the wind is pushing a current with it, as it's beginning to drift her off. She's trying to go. She's about halfway across, and she's starting to... Muscles are starting to tense. It's difficult. It's the smallest portion between the island and the mainland, but it's still far. As she's rowing this boat, making her way across, but she's drifting further and further. And out past, she reaches Lookout Point. And she looks out, and that's not what she wanted to see. Because as she looks out, it's just the open sea. As she looks towards the open sea, she begins rowing directly against the current, trying to make her way back inward past Lookout Point, trying to get back into the pass. And as she does that, she gets a full view of what's coming. As this storm brewing far, far in the distance is... She can see it from this distance, the storm cloud raining, pouring, this deluge coming down. And she knows what's about to happen. As the water here, calm at the moment because there wasn't any influx of water, now as this surge of rapids begins to build up, coming closer and closer and closer, and she's rowing against it. She's rowing towards Lookout Point, trying to get as much distance as possible, but she's not close enough. As she continues and she keeps going, and then she turns the boat round. Just far enough that once it hits her, she'll go with it, so that it doesn't hit her blind side. But it's not enough as the rapid holds, and it comes downward, and as it comes down on the back of her boat. And for the briefest moment, it's just this as this dull sound presses on her ears as she's getting thrown. The boat, underneath the weight of it, is just pulled under, and then she can't see it anymore. The darkness of the water is just pulling her and the boat in different directions. And as she tries to get up, the riptide just pulls her downward and downward, tumbling, pulling, pushing, and it's drifting her off to sea. And she tries lifting herself, and she tries getting up, and it's starting to... she's starting to lose breath. She didn't manage to take correct breath before it hit her, and now it's just slowly fading, and within the water, instead of trying to swim, she tries one final thing as she moves. And she begins some kind of weaving, but before she seems to be able to finish it, her strength fades. Begins just floating in the water, just still thrown around, but the air isn't there anymore. Slowly her consciousness begins to dip. And then within that moment, with her consciousness fading slightly, with her on the verge of drowning, looks at you. Looks you straight in the eyes. And she kind of grasps out a hand in the last moment she still has. And she mouths something that you don't recognize. You can't tell what she says. What are you going to do? You are in the water currently with her, but you're not affected by these same things. She's being pulled and pushed around. You have the chance to try and save her. Are you going to try pulling her upward? Save her all the way. I mean, let's be honest, I wasn't expecting any other answers, but... So you'll try to pull her upward. And you're certain that you won't be able to grasp her hand. Because everything else, when you try to touch things or lift things, you can't. They're not movable by you. You can't interact with the world. But as you grasp her hand, it's there. And you use this motion, and you can't swim as such. That's not how it works. If you were able to push the water with your hands to swim, it would be pulling you as well, just like it does with her. So that doesn't work, and you just will yourself to move upward, to pull her upward, and as you do, you feel yourself lifted up above the water, and you pull her with you until you reach the top. And there, you're out on the ocean. You can still see Lookout Point, but it's pretty far away at this point. Around you on the water are several pieces of driftwood. And as you're holding her here, just the motion of moving her upwards, it was something. It was what you could do that, but it was this surge, and you realize now the strange feeling that with each passing moment, you can feel yourself slowly losing the grip. Not because she's slipping out, but because with each passing moment it's like you're both holding onto her and slipping through her very being at the same time, as you use the last moments of what you can to kind of lift her arm and push her onto a piece of driftwood from the boat that seems to have broken on the wave. And then as you've managed that, your hand goes through hers, as you've lost the ability to interact with her again. At this point you hear a voice. A voice in your head. Soren's. And Soren Lestrade chuckles a bit. I should have known. You do realize you're not supposed to interact with this world. Things can go wrong if you do. You would have made it if you hadn't done anything, you know. We'll see how things change now that you've done something. With that, the voice fades again. And you hold on to the driftwood. You have no weight. As you hold on, it doesn't shift anything. It doesn't change anything. As she is there on this driftwood. It pulls her. Somewhere. Several days pass as she's drifted on whatever current. After a day, eventually she, in the evening hours, she eventually comes back to, coughs up the water, the rest that is still in there that hadn't been out by just her landing on this plank and just coughing up unconsciously. But she's still stuck on this driftwood as the current pulls her, and vaguely in the distance, off to the side, you can see a coastline of what's probably the mainland, as the current seems to be pulling you upwards, up the channel. When you went past Lookout Point, it started beginning to pull you northward. And then eventually, as Lurian is beginning to dehydrate. It's pulling, but it's not getting anywhere closer to the shoreline. It's going parallel to it. She loses consciousness more often and more often as she doesn't have the water to keep herself capable and working anymore, as most of the time she just sleeps in the sun, with the intense sun making her pass out at times. And as things seem lost, the current begins to drift closer. It's not going towards the coast, but it's drifting closer. And Lurian, in one of her awake phases, just a little bit that she has, she's almost falling over, but she realizes this is the chance she has, and she, with the last of her strength, kind of takes some of the board and she breaks it off. She begins using it as a paddle, kind of pushing herself through the current a bit, not parallel, but in a diagonal to it, having it still push her forward, but more towards the coast. And then it pulls her. She goes inward. Eventually, as she reaches the shore, and the wooden plank that she's on goes onto sand. And there on the sand, she takes the moment, begins crawling up just a moment, and then she gets maybe a few meters from the edge of the water and collapses completely.